All right, Matt Blumberg, there are so many things in your experience that I have questions about. Everything from going back OG, dot-com boom, you are already building stuff back in there that era. So man, you've got deep roots in the forest of what's going on right now. Right now you're working on a project right at the pulse of one of the most important things that's going on with Gen AI and everybody integrating new tools, creating content with markup AI. But you have built and scaled other companies. You've raised money. You've done things at the enterprise level. You've run a couple podcasts. I would love to hear about what's going on right now, but man, I have questions. So what's
Bring
going on
it,
right now? And
bring it. Let's go.
cool.
All right, what's going on right now? My current company is called Markup AI, and what we are trying to do at Markup AI is make it easy and safe and confident for people at companies to hit the publish button on their content. So the story is a simple one. For years up until now, or up until a couple of years ago, most content was created by humans, and that content had editors and a whole kind of content workflow and editorial process. By the way, our company has some legacy software products that helped writers and editors with the process kind of in the pre-AI world. But large language models have completely and totally scrambled content workflow. And what we're seeing inside of large enterprises now is that this move to have AI do all the work doesn't quite work. And what it does is it turns everybody from a writer into an editor. So, they can be really good at prompts and telling Claude or Gemini or whatever Copilot what it is to write. But then they get stuff back and it's like, good. It happened quickly. They didn't have to do all the writing themselves, but it's not 100% right. And businesses rely on their content being 100% right. So that's where Markup AI comes in. We are a multi-surface, multi-agent, multiplayer solution that is really simple to implement. We have clients that get up and running self-serve within a few minutes. We live where their content lives. So we're either in a Chrome extension working on Google Docs, we're in a Microsoft Word extension, we have a really robust MCP server, we have a really well-documented API. So we live where the content lives. Clients can determine their standards and rules in our application. So it's one brain and anyone in the enterprise can access it. And the standards that we help them evaluate their content against are the kind of the most important things they care about when they go to hit publish, where everyone has that moment of like, am I ready? Did Claude get this right? So we look really closely at their brand, their tone, voice, terminology, right? Are they getting all that stuff right? We look really closely at compliance. Regulatory compliance, which for different industries can mean nothing or it can mean everything. We look at AI search visibility. So what people are now calling AEO and GEO, but basically, not just can I be found by Google, but can I be found by Claude? Can I be found by OpenAI, Perplexity, Grok, etc.? And then finally, we help with accuracy and fact checking. So all those things, you put them together, like it's a really complicated set of interlocking agents that are all in one engine that we've created to basically help get the AI content infrastructure up to speed. Basically, we're trying to do for content what all these other companies have done for code over the last 3 years. So that's what we're doing.
And what percentage of content is word-based versus other aspects of the brand?
Our system at the moment and our agents at the moment are really focused on text. It is still the overwhelming, majority of enterprise content that's online. We are starting to do some multimodal work. So we have some agents that we're working on right now that get into images. I assume over time we'll get into video and other things as well. But right now the preponderance of it is text. And that is most of what corporate content is.
Yeah, the price of getting one thing wrong at the enterprise level or in sensitive industries, where you're dealing with healthcare finance, other things like the cost. One of the questions I kind of had for this was, you're probably dealing with, marketing leads or someone at the leadership level that's making decisions and overseeing. And I'm curious to know, like, people feel the noise of Gen AI, even LinkedIn this past week, with the whole, this sounds like AI slop, button, which is kind of funny. For a tool that also supports generating AI content, helping AI, write things. But I'm curious to know how the noise, people recognizing that maybe it's annoying becomes a pain point. Like how you've been able to help leadership to look and go, guys, this isn't just a convenience thing. There's a actual liability here. That if these things over a long enough period of time, you're going to hit some kind of snag.
Yeah, I mean, there is a real cost to having content out there that is not accurate. There is a real cost to having content out there that runs afoul of a law or regulation. And honestly, there's a real cost in lost opportunity for having your content not discoverable by search engines. And there is, I would say, it may be it may be a less tangible cost, but there's a real cost to having content be off brand. The reality is the way large language models work, the whole thing about the transformer and the LLMs is that they're predictive, which means everybody's content sounds the same. And when your content sounds just like your competitors' content, how are you differentiated? So whatever the vector is, companies that take their presence seriously online, which should be every company, needs to make sure that their content works. So yeah, there's a risk. You run afoul of a law, you can get sued by a regulator or a customer for millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. And there are lots of stories about that. And there is no legal defense that says my AI did it. Oops. If you are a regulated bank in the United Kingdom and you have to have marketing materials at the 6th grade reading level, and AI puts them out there at the 12th grade reading level, you're exposed. If you have to have accurate toll-free phone numbers somewhere on your website for someone to call, if they got a question, you're exposed. If you're a pharmaceutical company and you write marketing copy that's not quite accurate to how the drug works, you've got a big problem on your hands. So, those are the regulatory ones, but the non-regulatory ones are equally important. Again, if your content doesn't sound human and authentic and like your brand, you are missing out on sales. If your content isn't discoverable by the way people look for things today, you are missing out on sales. And if your content is just plain inaccurate, you're going to piss off customers and prospects and you're missing sales. So whether you're playing offense or defense, your content matters.
And if I understand correctly, the foundation of Markup AI actually has compliance as like a first order principle, right? Was it Acro? Just looking at my notes here, Acrolinks that ended up, so you have this enterprise level understanding or expertise in compliance, before, as I understand it, you sort of expanded beyond that. Is that right?
Yeah, the legacy company, Acrolinks, is actually 25 years old. I wouldn't say strictly compliance, but I would say complex enterprise content workflows, which means brand as well as compliance. And yes, that is what the company has been doing. It's been doing it since almost 2000. We have deep roots doing that using older technologies like natural language processing and machine learning and machine translation. So Markup AI is the new name for the company, but it's also the new platform, which is native agentic AI that incorporates all of the best parts of our legacy system and also extends it into the new content ecosystem of LLMs, MCP, and the new rapid fire pace of innovation and development.
Interesting that, even this company, Acrolinks, being around for the dot-com boom, I guess I go back to it. It's got a special place in my mind because I remember the energy, the feel, like coming out of school, fresh out of, studying marketing, and just the energy of the internet doing what its thing, and just the buzz of brick and mortar versus .com, and so many visionaries or like technologists, envisioning what the prophetic future is of, people kind of hypothesizing. And it's funny to me that a lot of that hypothesizing was accurate. The language that was being used to describe it, or the scenarios, maybe not exactly, the kind of clunky, but the timeline for a lot of the change was not immediate. A lot of it did require user adoption, hardware infrastructure, and then,
Don't minimize the importance of having hardware catch up to software capabilities. But absolutely. So it is interesting. Look, I've been the CEO here for a year and a half now. So I'm the steward of the brand at the moment, and my team and I are kind of reinventing the company in the current world, the current universe. There are lots of legacy software businesses that are going to have real problems at the moment because they're not reinventing, or because they are taking a legacy platform and like sprinkling in a little, LLM here and a little LLM there, and pretending like they're actually native AI, which they're not. We took an approach of start from scratch. We're still maintaining our old business, but the new business is done. The platform is up and running. It's solving problems for new clients every day. And we're migrating our legacy business, legacy customers over to the new platform. So look, there are a lot of companies are handling the disruption from AI in lots of different ways. And that's how we're approaching it here, sort of, clean slate. But with a lot of knowledge and a lot of customers about how this stuff works in the real world.
how do you like, what do you see, or how are you preparing for the agent to agent component of things? And a bit of context for that, one of the things that was an aha moment for me a couple months back was, as we sort of put the center of the dartboard for us, the target of all the places that you can be focused within like a broader marketing category, we looked at showing up in AI search. AI visibility is the center, because if you can hit that, there are all these other things that under the surface are in proper order. So that's the kind of the focus. But within that, I realized the machine layer, optimizing your content, creating content for the machine layer is crucial. And it actually serves the human layer better when you've done that properly. And so while,
Ain't that the truth? Um, Sorry to interrupt your question.
well, ain't that the truth? I think recognizing that, like for example, a lot of creative teams, and we were much stronger, or we were much more heavily indexed when we started back in 2012 on building brand campaigns, visuals, that sort of the traditional understanding of brand. And then you quickly realize if your brand isn't seen, or a campaign isn't seen by the right person at the right time, it's like it doesn't exist. So you had to go to the opposite side and understand pixels, tags, tracking, funnels, etc. And then when you have them both, you sort of have this relationship of two hemispheres that can work together. But it's interesting now because there are campaigns that are, go viral, a lot of really intelligent, creative, strategic thinking that goes into that. A lot of our focus is really looking and saying, what are the machines looking for to understand if a company, if a brand is solving a meaningful problem, if they do it well. Because if they do, and one of these models will confidently cite them as an answer to someone's problem, it's magic.
No, it is, and I think the thing that's so funny about this, like, hey, machine to machine, is it readable? The agent's going to talk to the agents. One of the things that is that's both I think a little confusing, but also a little comforting about that is there is a human on each side of that equation, and it might be depending on how you draw the schema out. It's like a layered sandwich of human and machine. So yeah, you need things to be machine readable, but one of the things the machines are looking for are signs of humanity. And so if you don't have, authentic voice and, content that's accurate and that makes sense, it doesn't matter if it's structured correctly. It's never going to float to the top of the list. So I think it's a little different than traditional SEO. And I'm not an expert in SEO, but it's a little bit different than like, we got the meta tags right. And it's also a lot harder to track. It's one thing you can run the same search in Google 3 times and you kind of get the same answer. But 3 different people are going to run a similar search 3 different times in 3 different AI engines and probably get 3 pretty different answers, depending on the exact wording of what they put in and what their history is, what their chat history is with that particular engine. So, all these companies that are saying like, "Oh, we've solved AI search," I'm not sure that they've exactly figured out how to do all the measurement and monitoring on the back end. But it is clear that there are certain rules and certain things that the engines are looking for in order to pick you up, and in order to realize that you're legit. And from everything I've learned, and I'm not an expert in this, a lot of it is still based on Google, and sort of the power of OG search.
Well, yeah, for some of these larger systems, looking to retool, and certainly for Google, the size of entire departments are so large. They're the size of some industries. And so that's one of the things that we've noticed specifically with optimizing campaigns, whether it's for actual paid campaigns or on the SEO side, is what you're hearing from one campaign or one department in terms of recommendation to another. You see, I think it was Google, within, it was like 10 days of itself, two different departments came out with different official positions on key factors in AI visibility. This was probably about a month and a half ago. So you can see that they're also retooling, and it seems more logical. Like for example, when you have noticed people game a system, like with Reddit, with organic growth and comments in Reddit, and it's how some teams are sort of we're black hatting it in a way, and you find these gray areas. And then so what happens is the models then adjust. So I think from our perspective, it has more to do with building like a rich soil of content around in the sort of ecosystem of a brand, with as much of the real world's authentic aspect of engagement with customers,
For
talking
sure.
talking about
Yeah,
product, etc.
for sure. And then, by the way, that's no different than Google and PageRank, right? I mean, it's the next generation of the whole thing. PageRank was interested, was the way to search for things because it was about real citations. Well, that's what everyone's talking about now is real citations.
Cool. So I'm curious to know, at the enterprise level, what do you find those conversations are like? Like, do you find there's, is it that sense of like these larger ships in the ocean that are taking more time to turn? Or is it, more of a sense of like not business as usual and more eager to find ways to improve efficiencies across departments?
There's a great quote, and I can't remember who said it, which is, "The future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed yet." So the answer is we see everything. We see some clients that want us yesterday and are like ready to go. We see other clients who are still oddly taking a wait and see approach about AI in general. And we see everything in between. We see a lot of companies that are trying to, their reflex on AI with everything is, well, let me go build that myself. And I think that pendulum is swinging back a little bit towards buy and away from build in enterprises. But look, with AI, you can build more stuff now than you've ever been able to build in the past. That doesn't necessarily mean you should, or it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a properly evaled, scaled, battle-tested, enterprise-grade application. So there's a lot of noise around kind of buy versus build. There's definitely the wait and see crowd. There's the, what I would sort of classify as normal, very large corporate enterprise procurement motion, which is like, okay, well, we'll buy it, but we need to have InfoSec look at it, and what models are you using, and what's happening with my data, and things that are, sometimes reasonable questions to ask, and sometimes maybe they go a little bit overboard. But there's a really wide range. Like I said, we've had clients adopt our platform self-serve, get up and running, and get value out of it in like 5 minutes. And we've had other clients where we're in a 12-month sales cycle. So it's all over the map right now.
Yeah,
And
that's
by the
what
way,
we.
that's not a lot different. Like you're talking about the OG stuff. That's not a lot different than the way companies approached websites in 1995 and 1996, right? The website got invented, and all of a sudden it was IT's responsibility, until it became clear that it's actually a marketing tool. And so then it moved from being IT to a partnership between marketing and IT, and now a lot of that stuff is really in the hands of users, and AI is going to follow that same curve.
Yeah, we've noticed some similarities in terms of typically when we have a conversation with someone that we could help, they almost self-select. They're generally interested in enough information to get a sense and then feel like they want to go away and do that work. And we found just to bless them, go for it. Green lights, guys, then you find others and they recognize it's typically speed. A lot of the time, they already have product market fit. They've got a strong team. That team is already focused on what they're supposed to be doing. So they don't have like people sitting around looking for something to do. And so they're not looking to add more things to that team to then take internally. They already are focused. And at that point, you're bringing, the cost isn't actually just a calculation of having you do that thing. It's actually, there's a second or third order consequences of impacting revenue, potential market share.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, one other question before my final question. My final question is what is the most important thing you need to grow right now? But a quick question before that is I'm curious, you've done a couple podcasts, you've been creating content. I saw even one project, I don't know if you want to speak to it, but something what's the name of it? Basically, you're not blue, you're not red, you're looking at, there's like a quiz involved, looking at politically getting people involved, just participating more at the community level of things. I'm curious to know, even at a high level, like, one of the podcasts very focused on hearing executives talk about what they're doing. The other one focused, from what I understand, about leadership, even at like a country level, which is so important. And now this one with the civil kind of engagement, I thought, each of these I think are really beautiful uses of tools to connect people, distribute information, establish relationships. I'm curious where that sort of sits in the ecosystem of what you're doing.
We humans are complicated animals. We're capable of doing lots of things at the same time. Most of my energies are going into building the business at Markup AI. That means I'm actually using a lot of AI tools and getting better and better and better at them myself. As a 30 plus year tech CEO, I've done a lot of content creation over the years about startups, about leadership. So my blog, startupceo.com, has been around literally 25 years. I've published a few books. So that's sort of more about the startup ecosystem and entrepreneurship than my current business. And then, as you note, I have a hobby which is politics and current events, like lots of people. And I've done both a podcast and now this the website you're referring to, bedrock.guide, which I just launched recently about America and our democracy and voters, and making sure that voters are informed and that people have access to information that's kind of outside the echo chamber sometimes. So lots of side projects, but really my main focus is making sure that Markup AI is a strong business with a great product and customers who love us, and that's where I spend most of my energy.
Cool. So for Markup AI, what would you say if you had to put something at the top of the kind of leaderboard, or the most important? What is the one thing Markup AI needs most right now to grow?
Well, isn't the answer to that always new customers?
Is there anything that you're seeing that you're wanting to open up bandwidth for?
Yeah, look, we just launched our platform 5 weeks ago, and we've actually done a pretty good job so far with demand gen. I think we have 130 or 140 new users that have created corporate accounts just in the last 5 weeks. So it's starting to really gather steam. But anytime you're doing something that is more what I would call category creation, which is really what we're doing here, there's some work that you have to do and some passage of time that has to happen before it's sort of clear to the world that the category needs to exist, that it does exist, and that you're the leader of it. So we try to spend I try to spend most of our time making sure our product is great and delivers a lot of value from our customers. And since it's an AI product, it actually has to deliver magic. But we're also spending a lot of time thinking about the overall category and how we fit into the ecosystem, and that ecosystem has to mature. So I think we got plenty of work to do on both fronts.
Very cool. Markup AI, enterprise level, commercial level, any level, from what I understand, content creation. being on brand, making sure that compliance is looked after, ensuring you have more confidence when you're hitting that publish button. Check it out, markup.ai. Matt, thank you so much for taking time. Really appreciate it.
All right. Good to talk to you, Caleb.
Awesome. Thanks.